Hey everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another video. You guys are getting two in one day. I feel really bad that I haven't been making many videos recently, and my stream, the last stream that I did wasn't exactly great either, so I'm gonna make up for that by doing a programming video in this second video of the day today. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I'm going to work through improving the developer console in Thundershock. The dev console is something that's a little bit weird right now. It works really well if you ask it nicely. So we're in the same build of Red Team that has the music. Um, which I'm actually gonna go ahead and disable for now. See, here's a bug where the music continues to play even when you've closed the window, so I'll have to fix that. I will open a GitHub issue for that soon and work on that throughout tomorrow. The audio stuff in Red Team is still or in Thundershock is still very infant right now, so it's definitely not going to work all the time. But the way to disable this is to simply go ahead and delete all the Vorbis player stuff because it's deprecated anyway. Vorbis player is deprecated as of the OpenGL builds of Thundershock. All of those old scene component objects are officially deprecated. You shouldn't be using them. You should be using the ECS or layers or whatever other APIs I decide to implement. So scene components are, yeah, they're a thing of the past now. But you can still ask the engine nicely and it'll let you use them. Until I remove them, which will be sometime next week. But anyway, so now I've disabled the audio from playing in that build. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna work on the dev console in this video. So I don't know why I closed the window, but the dev console, I almost said as I showed in a previous video, but that's because I recorded the video today and never uploaded it. But the dev console lets you do some fancy things. For example, you can type in no clip and there's a bug. You were not supposed to be able to get to the menu while in the dev console. So that's something I'll have to fix. But essentially what you're able to do is you're able to go into things like no-clip mode and stuff like that from the dev console. It is a tool that you can use to have the engine do things for you that typically maybe the player shouldn't be doing in the game, but maybe you as a developer need to be able to do in the game. Or maybe me as I'm developing the engine, I would like to be able to interact with it and do things. And a good example of that is the no-clip command and the camera commands. cam.setPersp, for example. This lets you go into perspective view when you're already set up as a... Or for... What the hell happened? Oh, I know what happened there. What happened there is the rotation got totally screwed. And the matrix is totally messed up now. Okay, it's working, but as you can see, this is actually a 3D scene, but I'm looking at it through a 2D orthographic perspective. Or projection matrix in Red Team. So this is the intro screen in 3D. It's really just a 2D sprite, but it is rendered as a 3D object in Thundershock, because this is a 3D game engine behind the scenes. But yeah, I can go in with the no-clip camera and actually see things and what they look like close up, which could be very handy in the future. Maybe when I start implementing, for example, the actual intro screen, and I have this idea for a matrix rain effect type thing with a lightning strike, and then it shows the Thundershock engine logo here. That's something that I might want to zoom in and look at and see if the individual matrix rain entities are actually doing what they're supposed to and what they look like, and if there are any bugs that I can't really see from the orthographic view. That's the type of stuff that I would use this for. Or if you were developing a 3D scene, you might want to go ahead and move around the scene during gameplay to see how things are working, and if they're working. Without having to navigate the player there. Maybe there's an invisible wall in the way or something. But either way, this is all stuff that you can do with the developer console. But the dev console is a little bit not great right now. It's a little bit broken. First of all, one major issue, of course, that we saw is that when I typed in the no-clip command, it kinda just, ignored it kind of has let the key press go down further down the engine's input system to the scene, and then the game ended up ended up moving us into the main menu, which of course we don't want that. If we're doing commands in the dev console, we want those commands to be the only thing that the engine is doing when we hit enter. So we've got to fix that bug. Another issue is that you actually cannot see the output of your commands. You can just see that you've, typed the command. Like, yeah, this is not a valid command, and it would be nice if you could see that. And it would be nice if you could actually see what the engine was doing afterward, or after that command was invoked. So, that's stuff we gotta add. So we're gonna get into it. And also there's some argument parsing stuff that I want to do, and I'm gonna start with that first. So, argument parsing, first of all, I'm gonna make a git commit, because we did get audio working, and I haven't committed that yet. So git add that, and then git commit -m, get audio to play, finally. And then we're going to do git origin head :openHL. I have to specify the destination explicitly because this is a submodule inside Red Team. But there we go, now it's committed. We have a fresh staging directory. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by creating a method in this whole ordeal here that basically takes in a string array and a list of parameters and parses that string array into an object array that we can pass to a method invocation at runtime. Don't feel stupid if you have no idea what the hell I said there. I'll explain. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new class inside Thundershock.core, and I'm going to call this command line helpers. Alright? What we're going to do is we're going to create a static class. So a static class in C# is a class that you can't instantiate. You can't create an object from this. This is just, I can add methods to it, and you can call them at any time as long as you reference this library and import this type. And in fact, we're going to create a method right now that returns an object array. And I'm going to call this method parse parameter list. Alright? That's our method. It's going to parse a parameter list and return an array of objects. Now, of course, we need the actual string array of arguments that we're going to parse. So string args. You can see where this is going. And then we need, of course, the list of parameters that we want to parse against. Now, in this case, I care about an actual C# parameter list. So, for example, I would want the parameter list of this method that we're actually making right now. Like, let's say that right now it takes an int for the index. The parameter of list of this will be a list of objects that one of them is going to have a type value of string array, and then and then it's going to have a name of args. That's the first parameter in the parameter list. And then the second parameter is going to have a type of int, and then a name of index. That's the second parameter in the list. So we want to actually get a list of these parameters inside a given method. And we can do that with the method info object in system.reflection. So this this gives us information about a C# method. It can be any method we want. It can be a static method, an instance method, an anonymous method, a lambda expression, even a getter or a setter and a property. It can be anything as long as we can call it, which means invoke it or run it or have it work. And that's going to be the method that we want to parse against. Now, method is going to have a parameter list inside it. And we have this method called, so we have return parameter, which is going to be the return type of the object, or of the method. So right here, this is our return parameter. It's an object array. But we don't care about that. We don't care about the return parameter because we are not asking the method to do any, or we're not asking the method to return any sort of value. Maybe we could return an int and have an error code, but for a dev console command, that's not really what we want to do. Instead, we want to get the actual parameters. This is going to get us a parameter list, of all of the information that the method will take in its little argument list here. So in this case, it's going to give us our string args and our int index, or our method info method, if we gave it this function as the method info. So we have our parameter list. That's great. So what we're first going to do is we're first going to check. Well, first we're going to check if method is null. Whoops, if method is equal to null, we're going to throw a new argument, null, exception, name of, method. This is a null check, and that's going to make sure that we don't actually give this a null object reference. It's much better to see an argument null exception in C# than a null reference exception. It's more clear what happened. And then we're going to do the same thing for the args array. If that's null, then obviously we're really in some sort of trouble. So args is equal to null, and then right here I'm going to replace the name of with args. Name of, if you don't know, it just takes whatever you give it. It's sort of like a compiler macro, and it just takes it and converts it to a string. You might say, well, why can't I just, say in a string that the name is args? Well, you might change it. You might just change the name of this parameter, and then that string is not going to make sense. You're going to have to remember to change the string as well, whereas name of is going to enforce that you actually change it, because it won't compile otherwise. Anyway. So we've done our null checks, we have a parameter list. What do we do now? Well, we want to make sure that the argument list matches the length of the parameter list. And what I mean is, they have the same amount of elements as each other. Think in C# where you go to call a method that takes one parameter and you give it 2, or you give it 0. The compiler yells at you and says, hey, you gave me too much, or you didn't give me enough values here. I need more, or I need less. That's what we're going to do. We're going to implement that behavior at runtime. So the way we do that is simple. If parameter list, because we've already done a null check, we're safe. We know that this is not going to be null. We're going to check if parameter list.length is not equal to args.length. If that happens, we're going to throw a new invalid operation exception. This is sort of my catch-all exception type here, where you try to do something and it's just invalid. You shouldn't have done this. So we're gonna say argument count mismatch expected, and this is where my friend Adrian is desperately screaming at me to use interpolated strings, so I'm going to. We want to do expected parameter list dot length parameters instead got args dot length parameters. Now, I'm not worried about localization in this case. This is a developer exception. It's gonna be in English. It's kind of like the international language of programming. You program in English, basically. So I'm not worried about, like, numbers and stuff like that, and how they're displayed, and plurality and stuff like that. Just tell the user what's going on. That's all I care about. Anyway, now that we've done that check, it's pretty simple to get this all set up here. What we do is we create an object array equals new object. I'm not going to stack alloc this because we're actually going to return it. And we want to create this object array to have the same length as the parameter list. And at the end, we're going to return it. Alright, so then what we do is we take each parameter that we've been given, each string parameter, and we need to somehow parse it into what the method expects, which is why we needed that parameter list in the first place. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a traditional C-style for loop in this case, because we are dealing with multiple arrays here. So I'm going to do for var I equals 0, I less than args.length, I plus plus, and then we're going to grab the argument at our current position. So var arg equals args at I. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab the parameter at our current position. So parameter list at I. And you can always tell that you're naming your variables good enough in Rider, because if you've named them in such a way that they describe what they are, it actually won't do this thing here where it says that this arg is a string. Like if I put arg string or arg string here, that's gonna suddenly disappear. But in that case, I can pretty much assume that that's gonna be a string, even if I don't have that little type identifier there. So as a little tip, if Rider is not telling you what the thing is, then you've named it fairly well. Like, we know that this is going to be a parameter info. So, what do we do with this arg and this parameter info? Well, there's this kind of magic method in C# called convert.changeType. It's used a lot in HiftOS if you know Philip Adams, and he uses it kind of incorrectly. In this case, convert.changeType is exactly the perfect method to do what we're going to do. So parameter here is actually going to have a parameter type. Don't get it confused with get type. Parameter type is the actual type of parameter that we expect. Is this an int? Is this a string? A boolean? What is it? That's going to tell us. What we want to do is we somehow want to take this arg here, and we want to convert it into an int, or a boolean, or a string, or whatever this parameter wants. And convert.changeType is going to try to do that for you. So the way we do it is we take in the object that we want to convert, so arg, and we give it the type that we want to convert it to, so type. And there's other things that we can give it, like a format provider and stuff like that, but we don't care about that. We just want it to take the object and convert it to the type. And it's going to return the resulting object as an object. So then what we're going to do is, and it can be null too, that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to store it in the object array at I. Alright? Now, I'm not worried about this throwing an exception. It will if you mismatch the type, but it should be clear what happened. Anyway, that's that method done. We have that dealt with. As far as getting the console to output the debug log, that's fairly easy. The way we do that is in the developer console. What it's going to do is it's going to buffer up all of the log entries that have happened since the last time, or since the last time you opened it, or since the last time you closed it, or since the game has started. And when you do, or when it opens up, it's going to read from that buffer and output it for you. And then if it's already open when the developer system logs something, then it's going to just automatically go ahead and say, okay, we're open, we're going to write this to the console. So we're going to go into the dev console class here, and I'm going to create this is going to be quite weird. What we're going to do is we're going to have a private class in here. Private class devlog output. And this is going to inherit or implement ilog output. Alright, and it's going to complain at us here, but that's okay. We're going to take this devlog output, and we're going to implement it. Or implement the method. We just need to implement one. Log, string message, log level, log level. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the... We're going to create another thing in here. It's going to be a static list of log item, which is a class we're about to create, and it's going to be called the log buffer. Equals new, and then what we're essentially going to do is we're going to take that log, but actually scratch this whole idea. I just realized in my head that it's not going to work out the way I want it to, so I'm going to scratch this entire idea. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to just have the dev console register itself as a log output while it's open so that you can see what's going on in the console while you're using it. But then once it's closed, it's going to unregister itself. That's a little safer, and it's what Unreal Engine will do for its dev console, so we're going to emulate that behavior. So, if we make this an ilog output, it's pretty simple. Basically, what we need to do is we need to log this message to the console. Now, I'm going to do something a little funky, because this is the same console control that we use in Red Team, so it has all those color codes and stuff like that that we can use. And we kind of need to color things based on the log level. You can see that we do that in the actual output. If I go into debug here, we can see the output of the last run that we did, and you can see that there are some errors here, and they outline in red. You can immediately see them. This is fairly important. You want to be able to distinguish different log entries from each other using color. So we're going to use those color codes, and this is where I kind of need my Red Team source code here, because I need my Red Team source code so I can reference the actual documentation on this, and it's not posted online anywhere. I'm gonna fix that eventually. I'm getting very thirsty. Let's see, is it under Red Team, or is it under redteam.core where we have that palette command? Palette, where is it? It would be under commands somewhere. Where is it? 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 I'm thirsty. I need water. After this video, I will drink some water. It would be in here. So that's the command usage. Okay, it's not really helpful, I don't think. Wait, no, it's not palette that we want, it's the colors command that we want. Color help. So this gives you a whole bunch of info on how to use colors. So basically it's just a hexadecimal index of colors. And I'm trying to figure out where colors is. Color equals new int 16. So it's a hexadecimal list. That's really all it is. And then I think it actually takes the direct hexadecimal index of console color from system and uses that. So I'm going to basically reference that. So the way this works is, let's see. We're gonna generate the color. So var color equals, and then we're gonna do log level switch, which is a new C# feature that I'm really liking now. What this is gonna do is it's going to take a log level and convert it into whatever type we want. So we get to tell it what type. I'm gonna do int. No. Info is going to be white, so F. that's what white is in red team, and that's what it's going to be in here as well. I believe C would be cyan for message. I can't remember. 8, I believe, is warning. Red is going to be C. That I've memorized. And then fatal error is going to be C as well. And trace is going to be 7, which I believe is gray. And then everything else is just going to be defaulted to F. So then we take that, we have our color here, we're going to take that color and we're basically going to create a message. Log equals, and then we're going to do an interpolated string, we're going to do hashtag and then the color. That's going to set the foreground color, and we send our message, and then we do &0, which I believe resets all attributes. And then we do console.writeLine, and then the message log. Really need some helper methods in there to set the colors and stuff, but that's okay. So then what we do is we take this, and when we're on when we initialize, we're basically going to go ahead and we're going to take we're going to make sure that our console is all set up here, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to go logger.getLogger.addLogOutput this, which is going to register the command or the console as a log output. And then on unload, what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing. Logger.getLogger, remove output, which is new in these builds of Thundershock, and we're going to pass this along. So ideally that should stop the engine from logging to us when we close the dev console. Alright, so let's give that a quick test. It's fairly easy to test out to see if it's working. It's working. It's definitely working. So we've got our console stuff being logged in. That's great. In fact, I think I even got the colors right, which is great. At least I hope I did. Yep, that's a yell error, and it's printing in red, so that's great. That's great. And it's gonna print that yell error every time because there's a bug. But anyway, we should be able to go ahead and say, okay, well, let's do help. And it should automatically say, hey, look, that command doesn't exist. And it seems that I got the colors all wrong for here, so that's great. But I can look into that later. But as you can see, executing help. Let's try something more interesting, like cam.setPersp. And it worked. Maybe let's try Richie, which I don't think gets registered yet. Yeah, it doesn't work. Richie has been broken. Anyway, now that's working. So now that we've gotten the console itself to actually work, let's go ahead and try something a little bit different. Let's rewrite how this whole thing runs commands. So what I'm going to do is this whole command manager thing, I'm basically going to go ahead and go into execute command. And we have this concurrent queue of strings here. That's great. We have a list of cheat codes. That's what commands are called in this case. Cheat codes, we're basically going to completely rewrite the way this is done. Private. So I'm a little bit... This is going to be a little bit annoying to figure out. What you should do in this new system is you should unregister your cheat codes when they are no longer valid. Now, the engine will help you out with that stuff as far as scenes go and stuff like that. But if you're registering your own cheats, make sure you unregister them when they are no longer valid. And this is why. We're going to take in our method info here. Method. And I'm going to have you give me an object instance. Why am I making these private? Public. So you need to give me... Actually, this might be a good case for an abstract class, maybe. But you need to give me a name, a method info, and an object instance instead of an action string. So method info, method, object instance. So we're going to set that all up here. So method is going to be method. Instance is going to be instance. An instance can be null, because you have static classes that obviously don't have instances. So this is going to be different. Object, or call, is going to take the string arguments here, and it's going to say, okay, well, look, get me a param list to give. And that's going to come from our command line helpers class that we wrote earlier in the video. We're going to take that, and we're going to have it parse the argument list. You can see this is all coming together now against the method that we've been given. And then when we do that, we're going to go ahead and simply method.invoke on the instance with the param list. It works. It's gonna work. There's gonna be some cheat codes that break, but that's okay. We're gonna fix that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, look, we no longer want you to give us an action string, so please just go ahead, give us a method info, and an optional instance. Alright. Then we're gonna give it the method, and the instance. And of course, more errors are going to pop up because we have more things that do things that with the old system. We're going to remove this method here, the add sheet string name, and then it gives you, and then it takes in a raw object or raw action. We're not going to do that. So scene.cs is suddenly going to have problems with this whole thing, but that's okay. I don't entirely know if there's a way to... So I'm going to remove all these... I don't entirely know if there is exactly a way to just give a method name and have it grab the info from that. I don't know yet. I'll have to think about that. So for now, all these commands will go away, and we'll remove them, and I will figure all of that out later in another video. Or not in another video, off camera, probably tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this, go ahead and so there's where Richie gets his stuff set up. It's in the window manager, actually. So yeah, all these add sheet calls, we're basically gonna go ahead and remove them. So yeah, we have a parameter list inside of our whole dev console here. We have that all working. It's all automated. Now I have to do some research into how I can just have you give a method name, and it'll derive the method info from that. I'm not sure how you can do that at compile time. I'll have to think about it. There might be a way to do it, but for now, that's gonna do it for this video. As always, I've been Michael. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.